Friendly Neighborhood History Channel to our weekend Q&A, Ask Me Anything, where you can ask me anything you'd like about history or social studies, and I will answer in a prompt, friendly neighborhood manner, like we do all the time here at the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. If you like history and social studies, you are in the right place. Consider liking and subscribing and becoming a Friendly Neighborhood Historian. It's as easy as that. Happy weekend to all of you. You have made it, TGIF, and what better way to start your weekend than here at the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel, where we treat you like a friend, a neighbor, and a historian all the time. Our live stream Q&As are every Friday and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, and then we go live on Sunday for our live stream lecture. And this live stream lecture this Sunday is coming from one of our channel supporters. Vincent will be giving us a topic regarding Scotland. Gave me carte blanche to lecture about Scotland, so that'll be fun. That'll be Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Fridays and Saturdays is the Q&A, Ask Me Anything at 6 p.m. And then after this, I will be hopping over to Instagram for a little while to see if anyone has any more questions, if they want to do some more after hours. That starts around 7 p.m. Eastern, so we'll go for about an hour here, and then we'll be an hour on Instagram. Again, a happy weekend to all of you, and I hope you've had a good week. And it's always fun when we can do our live streams together Fridays, Saturdays, and then again on Sundays. And hopefully you enjoy history and social studies. And if you do, consider liking and subscribing. And I can already see Harry, one of my great moderators, is here in the chat. Hello, Harry. Let's see who else we get and what else happens. We've been doing these live streams for a little over a year. And I'm glad you are back, Harry. We missed you. It was at least a week or a week and a half where we didn't have you. But yes, and like the live, subscribe for more. As Kevin always says, we have so many great, wonderful, friendly neighborhood historians who come onto this channel. They watch the live streams, they watch the long-form videos and the short-form videos. You'll probably enjoy my long-form video coming out at 8 p.m. Eastern today, which will be about the York and the Lancaster houses and the War of the Roses. So please, I really think you guys will really enjoy that. Please check that out. I have long-form videos dropping every Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that one is the one for this Friday. And Monday is one that will be selected by another channel member, Eric, who is going to give us an idea of what I should lecture on, or what I should do my Monday full-length video on. And we have shorts on the channel every day. So come for the live stream and watch the shorts, watch the long-form videos. It's all really great stuff. Hello, champs. Good to see you. Oh, Seth, wonderful. Long time. No see here on the live stream. At what point did the world start to have representative democracy instead of direct, and why? So, although the traditions of democracy really come from ancient Greece and several other societies of the ancient world, representative democracy is a child of the Enlightenment. It really gets going in France and the United States. Although the Dutch had a republic and the Swiss had their cantons, which had a republican system, Switzerland has had almost 200 presidents. The United States has only had 47. So there's something to be said about that. So really, it's Europe in the Enlightenment in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries, especially, that those systems really get kicking, where you have representative democracy, representative government, and republicanism. So welcome to the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. A happy Friday and weekend to all of you. Welcome to our Q&A, Ask Me Anything, where you can ask me anything you'd like about history and social studies. Nicole, Lucy, Emily, hello. Good to see all of you. Welcome and bienvenue et bienvenidos to the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. Thank you for joining us on this Friday evening, afternoon. So, yes. Nicole, I believe, is that Italian or is that Portuguese? I'm not sure which it is. Hello, Tanuki. Great to see you, our resident Swiss historian. We've got people who join us from all over the world. Harry, my wonderful moderator, is from the UK. We've got people who join us from Norway and India and the United States, obviously, Canada, Russia, all over the place. It's great to see everybody. Hello, salam, and salam to you. Yeah, buddy, it's been a long time. I've been recovering from surgery for a long time and haven't gone on. But I see your video, your comments. I appreciate your support, Steph. It's so good to see you and have you here. India and USA losing their coordination due to Trump. Yeah, India and USA are kind of going in opposite directions. They actually were getting kind of close because you've got two nationalistic-like leaders of both countries. But recent geopolitical shifts have shown that India is kind of going on its own. Especially because of the tariffs, because the United States wants them to stop purchasing oil from Russia altogether, especially as the Trump administration hopes to put pressure on Putin and get him to stop the Ukraine war. So there's a lot of geopolitical issues, and India doesn't want to be thrown into the mix. It doesn't want to play side as a side character or do dragoness to the United States, but it definitely is in a standoff right now about trade. Name a car. Ferrari. There you go. I do know a little bit about the history of the Philippines. Obviously, named after King Philip, it was a series of different islands that had originally been a kingdom. I believe, is it Luzon? That's the biggest island? But yeah, there's a little bit about India. Named after King Philip II of Spain, it was settled by the Spanish in really colonized in the 1560s, although the Spanish had been there before, and became an American colony in the late 19th century. Didn't give the Filipinos their full independence until after World War III. Yes, World War III, or the last World War in the 1940s. Raja, great to see you. I hope you are well too. SK, a lot of people in India really like Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I've talked about him a little bit on the channel. If you want to know more about Indian history, you guys should check out my video on the Varna case system. So, Switzerland is a little bit disappointed about the U.S. right now. Yeah, there's another standoff when it comes to tariffs because the United States, their highest tariff on a European nation is on Switzerland, 39% right now. And I believe President Karen, what's her last name? Is it Karen Kelly something is her last name. She's the president of Switzerland, and she and President Trump have been bickering back and forth this week. How much role did the Catholic Church and its subsidiary military organization like the Knights Templar have in creating debt-based banking usury? So usury is a medieval term to apply to not the use of interest, but the overuse of interest. They did create several banking systems, but modern banking really doesn't find its way into our lexicon of how it functions until the Medicis in Florence in the 15th century, Robert. Although the Templars were monitoring the church's banks and holding onto the money coffers during the Crusades, and throughout that time, the church was trying to do its best to give loans for crusading, for raising armies to fight in the Holy Land, but trying to do it without raising too much interest and throwing their nations too much into debt. One of the reasons that Jewish bankers received a lot of horrible stereotypes, anti-Semitism, and just straight out bigotry and oppression was because they did apply interest at higher rates than the Christians around them, and this was seen as an unchristian gesture, which, surprise, surprise, they're Jews, not Christians, and that led to a lot of persecution of Jews in medieval Europe by the Crusaders. Trump should stay out of it. Fatah Zelensky was a dictator who was never elected, who was really unpopular and shouldn't be there. Okay. They're making us memorize all 50 states and capitals. Ooh, Mohawk, tough one there. Maybe I should do a video just to help you out. I mean, I've done videos with like top 10s and stuff like that, but maybe I should name every single state and their capital in a video. I don't know if I could get that in under a minute, but that'd be a lot of fun. But EU and USA are buying oil, gas, and uranium from Russia, but sanctioning India for same. It's the percentage and the amount to which they are buying oil. The US and Russia are buying less oil from it than India is, and that's the big complaint. The hope is that if India drops its rates as being one of the main trading partners of the Russians, they can throw India out of, they're trying to get India out of BRICS. They're trying to disassemble BRICS as much as they can. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This growing contingent of a kind of an alternative to the dollar, creating an alternative currency, creating an alternative economy, and resisting the pressure from President Trump's tariffs. So what they're trying to do is the United States is hoping to pull India away from Russia and China, but it's actually pushing it towards them. So trying to get them to stop purchasing Russian oil will punish both Russia and India, make India more reliant on American oil exports, and force Putin's hand to sue for peace. So yes, President Suter. That's right. Brooke, hello. What do you think of terror in Burkina Faso? They call him a terrorist, but I see him as a man who's stopping European control. And what do you think of Africa becoming more independent? Well, he just suspended all elections. So he's more than just a general working on his own. He doesn't want an independent election. I think he just basically wants a one-man presidency with him in charge. No, you are, Hugh. Timeless, hello. You just scrolled into the live stream of the Friendly Neighborhood History channel I draw for a living, where we talk about history and social studies in a friendly, neighborly manner. Let me see. Switzerland probably will find a deal with the U.S., but trust is gone. Probably the same for many countries, in my opinion. We see history in the making, the isolation of the U.S. eventually, which is kind of what they want. So Zelensky was never elected by the Ukrainian people, just the greedy USA-backed interest groups. Okay, then whatever. Well, the theory is, the hope is to try to debase and to destroy the BRICS countries, and in order to do that, or in order to pull them apart, the United States is putting pressure on India. And then now that India won't stop buying crude oil at the same rate, at such a high level, compared to the Europeans and the Americans who do it much less, the United States is putting more tariffs on them. Is Putin a dictator? pretty much. I mean, most of the time, dictators in our modern era, very few dictators throughout history actually wanted to call themselves dictator. Dictator has been an unpopular term going back to when the Romans killed Julius Caesar. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of people consider a lot of people who call themselves president, leader, supreme leader, the general secretary of the Soviet Union, those were all dictators. They just didn't use the term dictator. A lot of modern dictators, from countries like Cuba to Russia to Belarus, they use the term president. Are you a liberal? I don't share my political perspectives. I'm sharing just an honest geopolitical assessment from a social scientist who is obviously thinking of the historical ramifications and influence, albeit all around. BRICS is already ahead, which is why the U.S. is making crazy tariffs. Yeah, it's a catch-up game, but it's an isolationist game too. Why are the populations of South, Central, and North America so far behind the far more advanced Europe, Asia, and North Africa? There's different reasons for that. One of the main reasons is that the technological gap. Many of the Native Americans in North America, particularly the United States and Canada, were very much itinerant. They relied on migratory patterns. They were not settling down, creating a civilization, creating a consistent series of settlements in one particular area in order to farm, crop rotation, slash and burn agriculture, which they did practice, but consistently farming in the same area and not moving around as much. The Plains Indians are a great example of this. Depletes the need to develop a technological civilization, so the need for the wheel wasn't as imperative to them as it was to other groups. They didn't have horses. They didn't use horses for transportation until the Europeans arrived. So the horses obviously are extremely important when you think of carriages and horse and buggies and chariots and the use of the wheel for transportation and combat. So the uses, the needs for the wheel were far less for the Native Americans than they were for the Europeans, based on how settled down they were in a civilized society. Now, the vast majority of European civilization that put them ahead technologically of the Native Americans was from the Romans, who developed the earliest public sanitation, running water, and obviously gave many of the Europeans structured settlements and the wheel. So there you go. Was there an empire in the past who ruled for a long time without soft power? I don't know what you mean by that, by soft power. I appreciate that, Fred. I try to give the best answers I have. Democracy can only function in countries where the population is significantly low. For example, Iceland, the so-called world's largest democracy, such as India, people are oppressed. I don't know how true that is. Again, I don't see, I'm very strict about how I see democracy. I don't see Britain as a fully democratic nation. There are democratic elements in the governments of countries like Germany, France, the United States, and Great Britain, but the vast majority of them are actually republics. The British are a constitutional monarchy with a democratic parliament. So it's not exactly representative government the same way the United States is. Canada has a parliamentary system. Those are the common form that democratic governments take, but they're not exactly direct democracies. They're more like indirect and representative democracies. What do you think of French Guiana? What particularly about French Guiana? Some dictators aren't always that bad. I remember in school how when Libya fell, now I hear they wish he was still around. I'm not saying dictators are good, but I don't think all of them are bad. It's not a question of if they're good. They're almost never good. Benevolent dictatorships are rare. Josip Tito in Yugoslavia may have gotten close to one. It's what do you replace it with? It's that the alternative is worse. Strongmen have been particularly beloved in Middle Eastern culture for 1,500 years, and they've been extremely good at running empires. From the Persian Shahs predate that predate the rise of Islam. They predate even the Roman Empire. Strongmen in Middle Eastern countries in different areas, uniting different tribes to serve under one banner, have been huge in the development of every single country in that area of the world. And Libya is kind of in the exterior. It's in Africa, but it's in northern Africa. It has a close connection to the Islamic world. And the rise and Gaddafi is one of those unifying, albeit oppressive figures that has this mixed bag for the people. A lot of people in Libya do want Gaddafi back, though. Grand solar minimum is why? I don't know what you mean. I'm trying to catch up to all of the chat, by the way, so if you don't get your question answered right away, I will do my best to get there. Solomon, good to see you. Harry, Seth, Freshly. I've got some of my great moderators here. To point, the Chinese invented gunpowder. Yes, the Chinese invented gunpowder. The Europeans perfected the usage of it. What about Eastern Europe compared to Western Europe? Eastern Europe is defined in much different ways. Part of this is that the Mongol invasion severely inhibited the rise of the Russian Empire. It kept them in a feudalistic state between the boyars and the serfs. It made their system very, very retrograde and backwards compared to the rest of Europe, and kept them from reaching their full potential. But when they did, they became quite powerful. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, that whole governmental system fell apart. The southeastern part of Europe was controlled by the Ottomans during the 15th and 16th centuries, so Eastern Europe has developed at a slower pace due to colonialism and oppression and exterior forces as opposed to Western Europe, where Western Europe saw the rise of its nations during the late medieval, early modern period. Eastern Europe saw the decline thanks to the fall of the Bulgarian Empire, the empire in Georgia. Yes, there was a kingdom, the Kingdom of Georgia, and of course the Byzantine Empire. So, it's not my birthday, but good guess. Let me see. You don't understand soft power, or dominate without physical force, but dominate with being positive things like aid and investment. Oh yeah, that's many Chinese imperial dynasties have been like that. Benevolent dictatorships is kind of what we're going with. Discover what is technocracy. What do you mean by technocracy? Was there ever a possibility of the Mongol Empire lasting, or was it designed to fall so quickly after Temujin fell? I just think it was really overbloated, really overpowered, really quickly, and when they divided it, that actually ended up being a recipe for a disaster. The more the Mongols divided, the more they became like the local cultures and areas around them, and the more they did that, the less authoritative they became, the less impressive they became, and the less successful they became on the battlefield. There was no colonialism in Eastern Europe. There was conquest. There were the Mongols. There were the Ottomans. Would Eastern Europe catch up in your opinion? It's interesting. Poland right now is catching up to the rest of Western Europe. I don't know about Hungary. There is some signs of strong movement in Eastern European countries, particularly Poland, catching up towards the rest of Europe. Yes, okay. Were you there? All you do is talk a bunch of nonsense. Were you there? Were you there? I mean, so the Mongols integrated, not assimilated, somewhat. Yes, yes, they conquered the land, extrapolated its resources, and used it and took control of it, doing everything they could to exploit the local peoples of the area. That's colonialism. Did we really go to the moon? I think so. I'm not a scientist expert. I've seen some of the arguments against it, but I think all the evidence seems pretty. An Occam's razor gives us the obvious explanation. Yes, Bulgaria, which had the first czars. The first czars were called were the emperors of Bulgaria in the 9th, 10th, and 11th centuries. Please tell some about South Asian region. What do you mean? You mean like India and Pakistan? So India and Pakistan were obviously at one point, as you probably know, one country. They were part of the Indian subcontinent. The Mughal Empire of the early modern period was eventually conquered by the British East India Company, and the British themselves took it over. In 1947, following the pestilence of the Bay of Bengal famine, where the British diverted resources and rations because of their war effort, in what I consider to be the Third World War, India starved, millions died, the independence movement gained even more fervor, and in 1947, the British divided India into three regions: West and East Pakistan, East Pakistan in 1971 would become the nation of Bangladesh, and India itself would become its own independent Hindu majority country, whereas the two Pakistans were Muslim majority. There's some South Asian history for you. If you want to talk Afghanistan and the Great Game, I can do that too. The only thing I think is fake is the nuclear testing films. Those are hilarious to watch, but moon landing 100% authentic. Yeah, probably. Technocracy is a form of government in which decision makers are selected based on their technical expertise in scientific or specialized fields rather than through political processes. Oh great, we're all going to be ruled by Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. So it's called Hindustan, according to you. Yeah, it was called Hindustan for an extremely long time. The Europeans referred to it as the land of the Hindus. Stan usually refers to land of. The Palestine region occupied by Zionists. Somewhat. It's all a question of who occupied who. That region had been occupied by different groups of people, some of them Semitic, some of them Arabs, for centuries. The British helped free that area from Ottoman control, and then decided to try to administer a similar two-state solution between the Jews and the Palestinians, which has not worked. What's the contribution of a subcontinent in World War II as Allies force? Good question. Basically, any ally that was a colony, especially a British colony, was expected to fight. India was the main target of the Japanese in the Second or Third World War, and so they had so they constantly were trying to protect India from invasions, where Myanmar, Burma became the main fighting place. But basically, Indian forces in the British Army, in the BEF, the British Expeditionary Force, would fight in Europe, Africa, and the Pacific against the Japanese, Germans, and Italians. Basically, in both world wars in the 20th century, if you were part of a particular colonial power, you were fighting wherever that colonial power sent you. Thoughts on Kashmir? I don't know who Kashmir technically belongs to. There's a Pakistani and Indian region, and that is where it becomes extremely disputed. Let me see here, going through the questions. Quite impressive knowledge on the Mongolian history. Actually, well done. Thank you, Alexander. I really appreciate that. Best from Europe. What do you mean, Reno? Are you saying you're giving me your best and you're from Europe? Kashmir belongs to India. Why does it belong to India, not to the Pakistanis? And why don't we just make Kashmir its own country? We did it to East Pakistan. That is the reason the subcontinent got rid of the British colony. Well, they hated the British being there for a long time. The Sepoys hated the fact that the British laced their bullets with pig fat, which was an insult to Muslim and Hindus alike. There was a real frustration with British imperialism, the East India Company. The Indians had chafed under these people for centuries. Oh, regards from you. Well, thank you, Reno. I so appreciate you joining us. Nothing. Bonjour to you. Bienvenue. Just to point out, no Indian could be conscripted to fight in the British Army or in a war. Britain and 13 out of the 15 members of the Viceroy Executive Council were Indian. Yes, and who did the Indians fight with? They were fighting for. They were drummed into the conflict, fighting for the British. If you were part of a colonial sphere, you were fighting for the colonial power. Kashmir belongs to India since the Muslim invaders never honored the independence. Who are these Muslim invaders, and who are you referring to? What was the war? What war? I saw Ukrainians dip bullets in pig fat when the Chechens joined the war. Yeah, regional issues. Obviously, the Chechens are from a Muslim-dominated region of Russia. Believe it or not, there are several areas of the Russian Empire, former Russian Empire, the Russian Federation, that have a huge Muslim historical connection. I mean, they're right next to Southern Asia in some of the areas. Kazakhstan has a huge Muslim population, was once part of the Russian Empire, most of it at least. So, some things to think about there. Yes. And there's no pressure whatsoever. Yeah, there was. One of the reasons the colonials wanted their independence was they were sick and tired of fighting and dying for imperial overlords. So you know where the Russian language originated from. I'm a Russian historian. We do Russian history videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday on this channel, shorts. Go check out my videos on Catherine the Great and Peter the Great. I do know it is a Cyrillic-based alphabet, and it is a derivative of that. Cyril and his brother, I forget his brother's name, were two Eastern Orthodox priests who helped convert native Slavic peoples to the Christian faith, and they produced an entire alphabet and spoken written language for them, and translated the Bible into that, and that became the Cyrillic alphabet. So yeah. Idika owns more land ethnically compared to the Pakistani 1955 false borders. What is Idika? Yeah, Melody. There you go. So anyways, and I'm caught up to the chat. So if you have questions about history, social studies, drop them in the chat. If you haven't done so, like and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us and spending your early Friday evening with us. It's 6:20 on the East Coast, and we will be going for about another 30 minutes or so. And then we'll hop on over to Instagram if anyone wants to follow us there. I just watched Gladiator 2. Did Marcus Aurelius' grandson rule the empire? Grandson? Aurelius's son, Commodus, ruled the empire, and he was eventually killed. There was a tussle amongst 5 different emperors, and eventually a man named Septimius Servius, one of the generals from Africa, took over. Do you think Somalia will collapse soon with all of the independence movements from Somaliland? Yeah, Somaliland is really pushing for it. Al-Shabaab is acting up a lot. I don't know, Timeless. It does look like Somalia is in danger of falling apart as a country. It has had huge refugee crises, huge economic crises. We'll see what happens next. But I do daily news updates here on the channel because I don't like the way the media reports the news. So I actually report the news to you every day. If you want to learn more about that, I talk about Al-Shabaab and the Somalian independence movement. Don't listen to Hollywood too much, okay? Can you tell? Yeah, don't. Can you tell me about Stonewall Jackson? He earned the nickname Stonewall because at the Battle of Manassas, or the first Bull Run in the Civil War, while the rest of the Confederate troops were starting to splinter, he stood forward with his soldiers and refused to back down, holding them firm like a stone wall. He gave us the phrase stonewalling. He's one of the most. He had this fervent religious commitment to the Confederacy defeating the Union. He was obviously a big believer in what came to be known after the war as the lost cause myth, and he is obviously reviled heavily today because he supported the cause of slavery. No, the main reason was that they thought the Europeans could no longer consider themselves civilized as they had just killed millions of each other, and the British Empire claimed to be civil. Yes, exactly. And they didn't want to fight for them anymore. They didn't want to be part of that sphere of influence anymore, Harry. I don't disagree with you, but I am correct. No point of arguing over Kashmir, as the Indians in the chat learned from WhatsApp University, the current government, so they won't believe you. I'm not saying that Kashmir belongs to Pakistan. I'm saying, why not make it its own independent country? Can you please talk about Nazism? Nazism is, I mean, everyone's heard me talk about it before. A lot of people already know this. It's the German form of fascism. It's a militant, racist-based form of fascism. Fascism in its historical infancy was in Italy especially was not racial. It wasn't really racial in Spain either, but it took on a huge racial connotation. It is nativist, but it's not necessarily racial. It took on a huge racial connotation with the Nazi Party. The Nazis were the National Socialist Deutsches, I don't know how to say it in German, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, Deutschland, Deutsch. But of course, Hitler was a spy for the German government, sent to spy on their meetings, but actually became extremely impressed with them, and eventually took over their leadership of their party because he was such a good speaker. The Nazis basically believed in the Aryan race being superior. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed white people were the most pure of all the races and needed to take over their country and turn on their enemies. Their most particular enemy were the Jews. Were? No, were. And most of them wanted self-rule and independence, not just flat independence. True. I love your current event videos, love your take on it. Rather than propaganda we receive through news. I just say, this is what happened today, and this is how it happened. I learned a long time ago that if I just get rid of adjectives and adverbs, I can report the news to people in a fair and balanced manner without having to skew it one way or another. If you add in adjectives and adverbs, you start opining, and all of a sudden, your news videos is propaganda for the left or the right or whoever you want to support. If I just use straight up stories. Now, it's hard for me. I do it all in 1 minute. I can't do every single story, and there are stories I have to push back or I don't get to right away, and I don't like that, but I try to get around to everything I can all over the world, not just American. Sometimes I'm more American focused, but I try to talk about news all over the world. So please go check those out. I really like making those videos, and it occurred to me after making a few of them, I'm like, if I can do a minute video explaining the news in a fair and balanced way, how come no one else can? Because the truth of the matter is, backed by corporate sponsors, government funding, different political parties, and different political interests, all the news channels, even the mainstream media, seems to have a political agenda. Either they they emphasize stories that help one side or another, or they ignore stories, or they have very selective commentary about it. And this includes newspaper as well as media. How do you remember all this? I love what I love, and I remember what I love. So I really love history. I really love social studies. I love seeing those connections, and I think the synapses in my brain just make those connections and are like, oh yeah, this connects to that, and then all of a sudden I remember it. My man knows his Stonewall Jack. I do my best. What time is it where I am at? I'm not going to share exactly where I am, but we broadcast every Friday and Saturday for our Q&A at 6 p.m. Eastern U.S. time on YouTube, and Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern for the live stream link. I need to see Kingdom of Heaven. I really want to watch it. I like Ridley Scott. I still have to see Napoleon. So yeah. Do you think Bavaria has a chance to becoming independent? Personally, I don't think they do. The most conservative part of Germany, I don't see them becoming independent, even as Germany continues to... The rise of the AfD will probably balance that out. What's your favor? Favor what? Do you think that Zionists in Palestine region is a form of crusade? No. In the West Bank settlement probably is. but no more than a crusade than the jihad to destroy them is. Alfeo, great to see you. I once heard someone say samurais expanded outside of Japan. How is this true? There's a little bit of truth to it. There were different types of samurais who would go to different areas and travel. But Japan didn't colonize the same way China did in the East Indies. So I don't know how much of this is true. What's your favorite fascist fact of the week? Favorite fascist fact of the week? Oh my goodness. Francisco Franco would have never come to power in Spain had it not been for the strong support of the Catholic Church. Go get married? I don't know, great legend. I don't know what you look like, so we can't get married right now. Free Palestine from the Nazis. What? The word Jew is a new invention. It's a derivative of Judea, which is the region they lived in during the time of the Roman occupation. And Judah was the ancient kingdom of the Jews. It has, I'm trying to remember if it has a connection to Hebrew, or to Jerusalem. Good to see you, Dr. Who, What, Where. Always a pleasure to have you here. I do my best to be as fair as I possibly can. Nazism is an ideology, not a fascism. It is a substitute ideology of democracy. It is an ideology, but it is a fascistic ideology. It's militaristic. It's illiberal. It's oh my goodness. It's nationalistic. It's got all of those things. I think it's hilarious how he wasn't even blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Why did he decide that that was the best race? Such an ignorant man. That tells you exactly what it is, Seth. It wasn't just Hitler. This was a common view amongst the Germans, that they were superior. They were the Obermensch. They took the writings of Nietzsche and the operas of Wagner, and they applied it to their own cultural context and had to make up for their loss in the Great War. And the best way to do that is to not only beef up your own nationalistic pride by supposing that the German people, many of them are blonde-haired, blue-eyed, are superior, the Aryan race, but you are also not responsible. Since you are superior, you are not responsible for anything bad that happens to you. In other words, Hitler and the Nazis, to a large extent, in many ways, not all, but in many, were entitled people who did not want to take responsibility or accounting for the failures of themselves, their people, or their nation. So because of that, they puffed up themselves and they blamed other people. In this case, the Jews, the communists, the Slavs, anyone who they considered to be deviant. Let me see here. I do my best to be as impartial as I can, Hugh. Will India be able to take Pakistan-occupied Kashmir? Probably not. I don't think they're going to be fighting. Because being biased makes a lot of money. That's true. I don't make a lot of money doing this. I am monetized. If you want to give a super chat, if you want to get a perk comment, if you want to become a member, if you want to support me that way, that's fantastic. And all of the money that you put in this channel helps to make this channel better and to improve the audio quality, the lighting quality. I mean, my first payday from YouTube coming up very soon, and I'm going to be using that to make everything for you guys better on this channel. So, the truth of the matter is I'm not in this for the money. I'm in it for the passion. And whatever money I get is just reward for passion. I like the puppet on the left. Oh, I like the puppet on the... Yep, that's definitely true. Is democracy a failed system in Southeastern region? You mean in Southeast Asia? It's not working that great. I don't know what it's like in Cambodia and Thailand. Thailand has a constitutional monarchy. They have a ceremonial monarchy, basically like the British do. I'm not sure I'm pretty sure Vietnam is still run by the Communist Party. Let me see. Did Pancho Villa really attack U.S. soil? A few times, but nothing too grandiose. Do you think the Hajuks were successful in their attempts to reduce Ottoman control? Bale, good to see you. It's always a pleasure. The Hajuks. Who do you mean? What do you mean by the Hajuks? Please tell me who those were. Maybe I've heard of them, but with a different name or in a different context. I don't know everything, and I admit when I'm wrong and when I don't know everything. Why did the Mongol Empire? I think it is because Genghis Khan separated his empire into 4 spheres. That's very true, Harry, but I don't know if they would have been able to control that much of an overextended land. I think they had achieved enormous success and they didn't know how to administrate, and they had to learn of that in the 4 different Khanates. The Chagatai, the Ugatai, the Ilkhanate, and of course the Yuan dynasty in China. I'm not being edgy. How do we convince Zoomers the Holocaust happened? Sure, most of it's exaggerated, but I believe an important story to teach our kids to treat Jews like they're human. Well, I don't believe that most of it's exaggerated. There is a temptation by a lot of people to either downplay the Holocaust or pretend it didn't happen. all different racial superiority groups, be they black supremacy or white supremacist groups, they do have some sort of hatred toward a sort of anti-Semitic vein running through their belief system. And that has infected a lot of political ideologies and have led people to undercount and underestimate the importance and the influence of the Holocaust. Because we have to teach the history. We have to teach the history of what led up to it. We have to teach the history of what happened during it. I have an entire video describing what happens during the Shoah, how it happened, where it happened. I think that we've gotten to the point where we are so oversaturated with hearing we need to avoid the steps leading to the Holocaust that we don't know what those steps actually are. The Holocaust has become extraordinarily politicized. It should be a matter of historical record, not a matter of political debate. I know that sounds like a chat GPT answer, but it is not. Capitalism or communism? I mean, I'm a Westerner, I'm an American. It's obvious that I like capitalism, at least in the sense that I'm used to living under it. All systems are capitalistic. Marx called it capitalism just as a pejorative. All communist systems have relied on the use and creation of wealth and money. Free market or communism, free market seems to work better. There are definitely not perfect. There are definitely strictures upon that. I'm more giving my opinion, but I'm saying the historical record is pretty difficult for communism to say that it's on an equal footing when you consider the Holodomor, when you consider Mao, when you consider the killing fields and all of that stuff. Hello, Vinette. Great to see you. Hey, Hove, I really appreciate you being here. And yes, socialism is not communism, and that's another option, so don't pretend it's a false dichotomy. The Hajuks were Central European rebels that constantly skirmished the Ottomans trying to stop the blood tax. Interesting. I'll have to look more into them. There were definitely different Europeans at different times who were able to subvert the Ottomans. Vlad the Impaler was a great example of this. In Gladiator 2, how many Praetorians were in Rome? I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. That was late 2nd century. I'm trying to remember. There was a Roman emperor who got rid of the Praetorians. It might have been Septimius Servus. Check out my entire series on the Roman emperors and my tier ranking system of, oh wait, I don't rank the Roman emperors there. But check out my series on the Roman emperors. I have an entire series on the Roman emperors on this channel and several videos on Roman history. What do you think of the Romans being anti-human sacrifice, but at the end of Roman triumphs, they strangled all captured prisoners before the temple of Optimus Jupiter Maximum been sacrificing 2 bulls on the temple steps? It's human sacrifice with steps, Harry. It's a way to show the dominance and power of your culture while also not trying to add a level of civility and civilized power to make yourself look better than your barbarian opponents, most of whom did sacrifice human sacrifice. And that was actually quite common in the ancient world. The Greeks and the Romans were particularly appalled by it. Wallachia, how long did it last? A couple centuries. There were different areas in Moldavia and Romania that resisted the Ottomans, allied with the Hungarians, stuff like that. I have 2 questions. What is a historical site you visited and wouldn't mind visiting again? And what is a historical site you haven't visited and would like to visit? Oh, good questions. Believe it or not, have not been to Mount Rushmore and want to see it, as well as see the beauty and the richness of the Black Hills and the Native American peoples in that region, particularly, of course, I think it's the Cheyenne tribe. It's a Sioux tribe, I wouldn't mind. I went to Tombstone, Arizona. I wouldn't mind going back. I want to go to Europe. I want to go to all those historical sites. I'm thinking very American, but yeah. Thank you for watching from Norway, Otak. Great to see you. There were 2 cohorts of Praetorian Guards, but this could be increased in times of crisis. Yes. Or when they decide to kill the emperor. Yes, Constantine got rid of them. That's right. The Praetorians were finally abolished by Emperor Constantine the Great in 312 after defeating Maxentius at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. Constantine disbanded the Praetorian Guard. They had become extraordinarily politicized and were used many times by generals to help overthrow the emperor or sometimes assassinate the emperor and try to take power for themselves. To some extent, socialism is, but not fully. And Ricky, thank you for joining us. Socialism is not a soft form of communism. It's self-interest groups that are much wider and are not limited to bourgeoisie. Somewhat, yeah. I think the blood tax was the craziest demo strategy. Kidnapping children, forcibly converting them, and putting them in charge of protecting the Sultan and being surprised when they overthrew him. Yeah, that could sometimes backfire, but a lot of the times, that was the only way for social mobility amongst the underclass Christians. So they actually were willing to at least convert, to pretend to go along with the motions, at the very least, in order to get by and give their children a better life. There were peasants and serfs throughout the Ottoman Empire that were willing to turn their kids over to become part of the Janissaries, the Ottomans' elite fighting force. And some of these men, many of them were castrated in order to keep them, so they could operate in the harem of the emperor without becoming aroused. But many of these men rose to high-ranking positions of nobility and sat on advisory councils for many of the powerful Ottoman emperors. Did the Aztecs and the Mayas coexist? No, the Aztecs came later. In fact, the Aztecs and the Incas, as much as we talk about them as the natives, were only a really developed society for the last century and a half before the Spanish and Portuguese showed up. Romans taxing urine is the best thing I've ever heard. Is here communal toilets with communal sponges. Sounds like the Romans. Greece, it's a nice country for history. Have been there 5 times on vacation. It's gorgeous. I need to go to Greece. That's, if I haven't, I said I love France, but I'd love to go to Greece. There's just so much there. And always a pleasure to have you here, Ricky. So yeah, we've caught up to the chat. We're about 2/3 of the way through part 1 of our, and ciao to you, Aliko. Good to, or he's saying goodbye. Okay. Good to see you, though. I am not from Albania, nice guess, but I'm not Albanian. I have I'm learning more about the Albanian history and their culture, and they're fascinating people. I mostly have learned about them in the context of the Italian, the the fascists in Italy, but I think I'm trying to think about it. They have a recent, they were Muslim dominated for a long time in their history because of their Ottoman Empire. But yeah, everyone get it according to his need. That is communism. Yes. From each according to his ability, to each according to his need. And Greece is swimming in debt like any American who needs life-saving medical treatment. Yes, thank you, Harry, for making a political jab for no reason. Where do you come from? I'm from the United States. I'm not going to say where, but I'm from the United States. Don't delete his comments. I like seeing Italian in the chat, Harry. Good to see you going at the live streaming again. Always a pleasure. What do you look for in a man? Well, usually military prowess, the ability to moderate your positions, but also hammer down the law, and the ability to blow the nose off a sphinx. My kind of man is Napoleon. What about New Mexico? Albanians didn't have their own alphabet until the beginning of the 20th century. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that. See, I want to learn more. I don't know. There's several countries, Philippines, Albania, where I know a little bit, but I need to learn more. Epimetheus here on YouTube does an amazing series of videos where he talks about different countries and areas and how they develop independently, and that is so fun to watch. But he doesn't have one on Albania yet. But then again, I'm not going to put pressure on a guy with 150,000 subscribers. Albanians didn't have their, okay. Armando is saying, did the early Argentinians after Spain's independence commit genocide with pre-Hispanic people? I don't know what the early Argentinians did in the 19th century. I would imagine there was some blowback and stuff like that, but yeah. Alan is asking me, can you tuck your upper lip in so you look like a Who from Whoville? I'm trying to think of a Dr. Seuss-like way of telling you to screw off. But thanks for the donation. Let me see. No, I can't think of one. Sorry, not very creative, but what's your religion? Don't share my religious or political beliefs. My moderators don't even know my name. I try to be as anonymous as possible. People just call me Friendly History or History Hefner, but I'm not wearing my usual smoking jacket. My mods are not neutral, but I like their opinions. I like having them here, and they do a good job at what they do. Why do you think the Ottomans were so opposed to quick victories and would go for long, drawn-out sieges? Wear down their opponent. They knew how to do a war of attrition. No way he looks like a Whoville. Oh my goodness. Poland, it's a country in great economic progress. Yes, it's in 10 years it'll be bigger than the British economy. Do you know Mao actually simplified the Chinese symbols to encourage literacy? Yes. What do you think of the Republicans redrawing the line, Pol Pot was a who? Okay. Yes. I'm okay with, I don't want to imitate genocidal maniacs, Alan. Let me see. What do you think of the Republicans redrawing lines in Texas and the Democrats just went to other states? Thought it was hilarious. Can't vote if they aren't there. I don't care. I talk about it a little bit. Go read my Substack article. Harry read it. Go follow our Substack, Friendly History, and on TikTok we're Friendly History too. There's exclusive content here, but you can't get there, and vice versa. But I talk about this Texas nonsense. Look, both sides are doing it. Both sides have been doing it. It is not necessarily likable. It is not necessarily moral, but people still do it. It's basically a way for the Republicans to gain a stranglehold on the U.S. Congress, so that they don't, so that they can hold on to it, even if they have a bad midterm in 2026. Basically, Democratic states have already, some of them have maxed out. Some of the Republican states have already maxed out, but states that haven't have decided to double down. Texas and Florida are two of them. It is a way of redrawing congressional maps, usually done after every census every 10 years, to make sure that your party has a favorable amount of representatives and the other party does not. And it was very ironic that the two states the Democratic lawmakers fled to make their point were some of the biggest, Illinois and New York, which are both two of the most gerrymandered pro-democratic states in the country, even though Republicans get a significant portion of the votes there. Texas is just doing what all the other states are doing. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying what's happening. What do you think of the Netherlands? I love talking about the Dutch Republic. I love distinguishing between the Dutch, the Netherlands, the Low Countries, Flanders, and Holland. Fascinating stuff. Did Che Guevara was a killer? Yes, he was. And Castro actually let him die. Thank you, Alan. Really appreciate it. Can you please talk about Native Americans, who actually they are? We don't know exactly who the Native Americans are. And let me see. Dr. Who, What, Where? Oh, geez. Alan can take a poop in his cat hat like a cat. Hey, thank you, Dr. Who, What, Where? And thank you for the donation. Yes, I am basically creating an East Coast, West Coast Dr. Seuss feud. And I can't think of a rhyme right now to save my life. I'm too tired. Can you please talk about Native Americans, who actually they are? A lot of people believe that they are Polynesian, Macronesian, and East Asian people who migrated across the Bering Strait and through a series of island hops eventually landed in the West Indies and North and South America. Yeah, it's hard to say who the real ones were. He was the truth. Stay here long enough, as biased as you can, and you will be a mod. That's not true. Seth's been coming here forever, and I haven't made him a mod, Harry. I don't make people mods. I make people mods if they help the channel, and you help the channel with all of your knowledge. That's why you're a mod. And Dr. Who, What, Where may have just purchased himself some modding. Yeah, I don't care when the Democrats try to do it. It's the whole, when did you try to do it? The Republicans are trying to do it right now because there are certain states that allow them to do that. It is pretty scandalous, but it's pretty unabashed, and they're being honest about it, which is actually pretty impressive considering the fact that nobody is ever honest about gerrymandering. Gerrymandering, by the way, is the way they carve up congressional districts to favor one political side or the other. Republicans and Democrats both do this all the time. The Democrats have done it to the nth degree in certain states, and so have the Republicans, and the Republicans are looking to match them in some of their big states like Texas and Florida. The fact that certain Republican states like Texas and Ohio have become more Republican in the last few years is now allowing their state legislatures and governors to basically redistrict the map even more to favor Republicans. Harry, when it comes to gerrymandering, if you're being egregious, it really falls on deaf ears. Newsom threatened to corruptly redistricting if Texas falls through. I don't agree with that. A lot of Democratic states, actually, some of the Democratic states that are trying to do it have commissions that block them from doing it. It's pretty interesting. I don't believe there are any natives to America if they came from Asia. Yes, most likely there are no full Native Americans. Besides, Elon, do you think we should have a third party to add seats? My question to other people is, how do we know those seats won't be bought one way or another? It makes them the swing seats, and I don't know about that. I'm not sure. The United States could become like a coalition government, like Germany, France, Great Britain, and Israel. Some of them are like that, but I don't see it. I mean, the American Party died out. No, I don't, but I wish I did speak Dutch. I've said that Harry's from the UK. And yes, click like if you haven't. Why Native American are genocide? So this is I don't actually believe that. This is a common accusation because the vast majority of Native Americans who died off when the Europeans came. The main reason of this was usually unintended disease contact with the Europeans, warfare, land acquisition, stealing land, breaking of treaties, war crimes, all sorts of horrible displacement, all led to the loss of Native American life, land, and culture. I don't consider it to be a genocide. Did you know that horses are native to the American continent but were reintroduced after the Ice Age? I've heard that before. They weren't something in the Native American cultural lexicon. Native Americans share recipes with Americans, I guess. What do you think of the Holy Roman Empire? Neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. If you want to gerrymander. At least do it at the correct time, not to get Trump his 4-year dictatorship. That's nonsense. I'm sorry, Harry. That's nonsense. Gerrymandering is only done for political purposes. So if you want to do it politically expediently before an election to make sure you don't lose control of the House of Representatives, then you're going to do it. Until they actually outlaw this stupid practice, it's going to continue like this. Both sides do it. The Republicans are doing it pretty egregiously right now. But I hate the oh, you're doing it, and you're doing it bad because I do it too, but not this way. Yeah, it is nonsense, Harry. It is nonsense. Didn't they give natives poison with germs? A couple of times, but the vast majority of the times when the natives got sick, it was not because of intentional stuff. I speak English y Espanol. They haven't become extinct. There's actually more, technically their population rates have decreased, but there's actually technically, I believe there's more natives now than before. I think, I'm not sure. But that's of course proportional. Their populations were severely reduced by the coming of the Europeans. That's not the same thing as a genocide. Getting people sick and them dying from that illness that they didn't have any defenses for when you had those defenses is not a genocide. If the Europeans gave the natives smallpox on purpose, then the natives gave the Europeans, yes, and they gave them venereal diseases. So it goes back and forth. Do what the UK does. Get an independent commission to draw you election boundaries. Yes, I'm perfectly in favor of that, Harry. Love that idea. Independent commissions to figure out your congressional districts. Until that happens, this is going to be on anything you can do, I can do better between the Democrats and the Republicans. And right now, the Republicans are winning. It's that simple. The Democrats stonewall themselves in California by creating an independent election commission so that their state legislature can't do it on their own. The state is already horribly gerrymandered in favor of the Democrats. So it's just the Texas Republicans doing what other states have done, even though Texas is already horribly gerrymandered, just to benefit the Republicans. And they're being honest about it in a weird show of it where they're just basically being in your face about it. Yeah, we can do this, and we're doing this to help President Trump. Many of the districts they are proposing were won by the president in the 2024 election. And make it so commissioners are not allowed to be or elected. Yes, exactly. I agree with that. And a lot of people in America agree with that, but nobody's going to do it for political reasons. Yeah. And Citizens United has changed the way they put money into the economy, too. That's why you get billion-dollar presidential campaigns. Gayahan, it's always great to see you. Don't worry about being late. Leif Erikson in the 11th century visited Eastern Canada. Yes, Newfoundland. And Eric the Red went from Iceland to Greenland, and then his son Leif Erikson went to Newfoundland. Harry, the UK has no independence. It's all banking sectors. Your arguments with Harry. What's your opinion about Pakistan form of government, either it's democratic or dictatorship? Westerners, I don't know exactly the form of Pakistan's government. I know they have a presidency, they have an ostensible republic, but their connections in the past to Iran, their interest in building an ICBM has made a lot of Westerners turn away from them and see them as a radical Muslim country, and a lot of people worry about them sponsoring Islamic terrorism. What's your opinion on asbestos? It's a fascinating thing to see in the developed world in the late 19th century that despite all of the mechanization and industrialization they built up, they still used asbestos because it was cheap and easy. This put many lives in danger and killed a lot of people. When it's exposed, it's extremely toxic to people. So, yeah. Nobody talks about the Vikings trying to trade milk for furs and having their camp raided by natives. Yes, the Vikings were basically all killed off in North America by natives. I want my president to be Reach AF. I don't know what you mean, Marley. Yeah. And yes, Hearts is here. Good to see you, Hearts. And yes, those are our social media handles. Please follow us there. 2.1 billion in a little over 100 days is in absolute insanity. Yes, and she ended up in debt. That's how crazy we get when it comes to spending money on American elections. Why did Friendly History, did you see the new British law that requires people on the internet to submit their ID to the government to use the internet? I've heard about this. It's mainly for age verification purposes. I think Harry could explain it better than I can. I've read about it a little bit. Prime Minister Stramer is under a lot of attack. He's extremely unpopular. The Labour government is going to fall. The Reform government is probably going to take power. Sorry, Harry. I know you don't like that. Why did Pharaoh like Moses? You're talking about the Book of Exodus. So I don't think he liked Moses at all. If you look at it, he refused to give Moses what he wanted. But yeah, there was a connection between supposedly Moses and the Egyptian royal family, according to the Book of Exodus. If you could, which states' persons would you add to Mount Rushmore? Which states? Which person? If I could add a president to Mount Rushmore, that's a good one. Jefferson's already there. My top 4 presidents are already there. It'd either be Reagan or Eisenhower. I live in California. How is it likely that Governor Newsom will be arrested? It's not likely at all. The Democratic Party runs California from everything I have read and heard about it. The better question you should be asking is how likely is it that he's the next president? Very is the answer. Talking Babylonian powder is also dangerous. Don't breathe it in. Small particles. Thank you, Julianne. I appreciate you. How can you say Muslim countries promote terrorism? That's what the West says. That's a common argument. And you have the fact there's a huge leery eye at the Pakistanis because of Osama bin Laden, because the Taliban, because the form of government in Pakistan has been repressive, because of refugee crises, because of radical Islam, and the fear of a rise of radical Islam coming from the Middle East to the West. There's a lot of that. I want to pursue a history major. Any advice? Do it early. I did not become a history major till I was a junior in college. There's not a huge amount of people studying history. If you go to a good school, you'll get in with a right group of people. Go to the events, form a cadre. I was part of a great cadre of fellow historians. We were all really motivated. We all had fantastic professors. We were all really close-knit, and we all loved history. And we loved talking about it. We loved learning it. It made that some of the best years and moments of my life was in college because I was pursuing my major, and I only regret I didn't pursue it 2 years before then. But yeah, take major classes in your first 2 years if you can, if you're going to be going into college at Mario. I'm assuming you're in America and you're going to do a 4-year thing. What do you think about the Texas shareholders gerrymandering from their jobs? I've talked about it. Them fleeing the state is total political theater. Oregon Republicans did the same thing a few years back, and the Oregon government sent civil arrest warrants after them. To call it fascist for wanting them to come back is ridiculous nonsense as usual. I think when people just love to overblow things. That's why when I report on this stuff in my news videos, which are only a minute, I still try to be as fair as I possibly can. They'll get there. They've made their point. They know it's not going to last. They want to hold on to their own political power more than they want to stop the Republicans in Congress. So they will go back and they will have made their point. They will get a lot of eyes drawn to it. There will be gerrymandering in Democratic and Republican states, and it will normally favor Republicans. That's my prediction, Hugh. It'd be hard, Julianne, to get another face. Yeah, Harry. I don't have a problem with your government doing it for those reasons. Jim Lovell died. Well, Harry, everyone with a brain knows 15 to 20-year-olds can circumvent those protocols. I'll let you guys handle that. JFK Reagan should be added, but I'm sure you'll disagree with that one. JFK Reagan should be added. I mentioned Reagan. I said Reagan would be one of mine to add. JFK being added, JFK just didn't have a full presidency. He might have been the best ever if he had had a full presidency. I'm sure Trump would make room. Oh, jeez. Only for himself. And Australia banned it from under. Okay. Don't waste your time with academic degrees. You are getting yourself in for a lot of debt and a lot of problems, especially in the United States. Basil is true about that. But yeah, Mari, I'm glad you really love history. I will say this. It's not easy to make a living being a historian. You are most likely headed for a future of teaching, education. I had a friend who was a historian. She became a librarian. She did library sciences and became you can become an archivist, a researcher. There's a writer, but those are hard and they take a long time. And if you want to really get in good in history, you might want to think of going bachelor, master's, PhD back to back to back, or very close to doing that, because 9 out of 10, otherwise you're going to end up as a teacher. And you'll love it and you'll really enjoy teaching history. I've enjoyed teaching history, but it's not easy and you get a lot of debt and you have to pay it back. And just to point out that, okay, Harry's on one. If we put Reagan on Mount Rushmore, that would be 2 war criminals. Teddy liked killing Indians and Filipinos, Reagan liked overthrowing governments. True, they both did like overthrowing governments, but look at what government George Washington and Thomas Jefferson overthrew. Every single president overthrew one government or another on that, including Lincoln. Lincoln liked killing Southern rebels. About dictators, in your opinion, what's good and bad what's a good and bad dictator? A benevolent dictator typically tries to think about his people's interests and acts more as a populist executive than as a repressive tyrant. Josip Tito did a lot of this, unifying the Yugoslavian people who were of different backgrounds, Croats, Slavs, in Yugoslavia during the second half of the 20th century. And so we have a democratic president in 4 years. Could be. My dear, for your kind information, Osama bin Laden was no Pakistani. He was Afghani. Taliban were also from Afghanistan. Yes, and where did we, the United States, find Osama bin Laden? After years of thinking he was in Afghanistan. Was he in Afghanistan? And who knew he was and where he was? That's the problem. That is where the tension comes from. Friendly, can you try and make videos about different battles in history? I could. That'd be fun. Maybe my next series after I finish Russian history will be the battles of history. Pinochet was not that good. Franco is an interesting one. I don't think there's any good dictator, but there are definitely less repressive, less nasty ones. GMCC, thank you for joining us from New Zealand, from Dundon. Oh, I'm so sorry it's freezing because you guys are in the middle of winter right now. What legacy do you think Cromwell's New Model Army had in terms of English society and politics? And Stryker, great to see you. And in terms of English society and politics in the 17th century. They were the only ones after centuries to actually subdue the Irish. I think that creates the New Model Army as a legacy. The reason it was a New Model Army is that it brought the English army into the 17th century, and you have this upstart military unit able to destroy the Cavaliers, the army of the king. It was the English Revolution, more than the English Civil War. The real English Civil War is the anarchy. Or the War of the Roses. Take your pick. Forcibly retake them to the state is not legal. Yes, it is legal. It is legal if they've crossed states. Harry, it is legal if they cross states. Because they went to like 2 different states and are trying to hide there. In fact, Pakistan were facing terrorism from decades, but no, it's clear. Yeah, sure. Why is it clear? History will be a good TV interview. History, you mean me? Or just history in general? History would be a great TV interview. JFK was my favorite, and sorry, I guess I missed you saying about Reagan. I'm multitasking now. Both good choices. Do you want me to permanently stop talking about Woodrow Wilson? I don't care. I'm in a good mood. We've had a good one. No one brought up Woodrow Wilson for 60 minutes, so Harsh, you can ask me about him if you want me to. If you want to. Historians are essential and have above average intelligence. Forget the debt. Stupid is expensive. Quote of the day. Historians are essential and have above average intelligence. And I'm just sitting here like, I didn't say it. I agree with it. Oliver the First is a moron who should be disgraced, said the losers. Protecting kids is always code for complete control. What? What about Castro, Nick? Caesar was a good dictator, yes. I think he was effective. Effective might be the better word. I think Pinochet was a good one because he allowed his people to vote to keep him. That's true, and Ortega did the same thing in Nicaragua. I did not know that about Pinochet. Thanks for sharing that. 3, no, I don't do spanking. That's corporal punishment. Is Chris Cuomo doing the news correctly from other channels? I've seen him. He's on News Nation, I think. He actually is okay. I didn't like him when he was on CNN that much. And that's not to say that I love Fox News or anything, because they're... But when I don't like... It's not that I like their... It's not that I disagree with their politics. I like newscasters who are fair, balanced, and thoughtful. And Cuomo, especially on News Nation, has been very thoughtful. He is a Democrat. His brother was the Democratic governor of New York. His father was the Democratic governor of New York. But Cuomo is actually a pretty fair journalist in the fact that he can criticize both sides. I give him a lot of credit, especially on News Nation. He wasn't like that on CNN as much. Who was the very first army to modernize? Ooh, modernize. Oh, that's a tough one. In the sense of World War II and after, or World War III and after? Probably the Germans. Pinochet, like others, wanted to back his currency with real gold. What a crazy idea. If only the United States had listened. If Pakistan promotes terrorism, why didn't they provide air bases to the Americans? I've already given you the reasons, Meme Master. I don't disagree with you. I'm saying that's called playing both sides. That's part of the problem. Let me see here. What are your thoughts? It's 100 degrees, Harsh. I am not buttoning up my shirt. I don't mean to distract you with my non-existent chest hair. What are your thoughts, or my Adam's apple? What are your thoughts on Woodrow Wilson's eugenics campaign as New Jersey governor? Horrible racist. Suleiman, I don't call kings and sultans dictators. or even Roman emperors. The Romans hated the term dictatorship so much that they refused to, they preferred emperor. There's a reason they hated their legacy of kings, and that's why they so badly wanted Roman emperors, not kings. The emperors never referred to themselves as kings. Yes, we are in the midst of, yes, I know, and modernization is ongoing. Now we're in digitalization. What news station do you watch? I heard about good ground news to be a good source. But as of right now, I'm watching every news station, listening to one channel. Just, yes, exactly. So assimilating propaganda. And watch news from me if you haven't. But really, I listen to, I get most of my news from X. So I go onto X and I look up different pages, and they break the news, and then a half hour later I'll get an email from the New York Times. For papers I subscribe to the New York Times and to Epoch, which are, New York Times is left, Epoch is right wing in America, and so I get both sides. But those stories come a half hour later to the stuff I've already read on X. So I go to X and I get most of my news because those breaking reports come through there. And if you want a fuller explanation, the Associated Press, New York Times, Epoch, they all give you that. Don't you have AC in your apartment? Who said I have an apartment and who says I have AC? This is America. Everything's expensive. Is universal basic income just pseudo-Marxist gobbledygook, or is it possible? It's like pseudo-Marxist gobbledygook with economic technocracy supporting it. It's interesting. It's one of those things where even if you disagree with it, you're like, that'd be cool. Will we stop homelessness in the country, or this will be an issue convenient for both parties in raising taxes from the home? Yes. I don't see the U.S. finding a solution to the homeless crisis. Yeah. Westerners took presumption as authentic. What? Okay then, Meme Master. Dictators has lost all meaning since 19th century. Fair. They aren't, then buy some window ACs, they aren't too much. Donate to the channel, give me a super chat, and then we'll use that money to buy an air conditioner. I was researching different ancient countries that go by a different name now, and I saw one that really interested. It was once known as Prussia. Anything you can tell me about it? Prussia was Brandenburg, Prussia. I have to charge my phone, so I have to walk over to my charger. Brandenburg, Prussia was a, okay, can you hear me? I think we're back. All right, we are back. All right, I'm going to wrap up these last few questions and then head over to Instagram for a few minutes. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, friendly_history1, you can follow me there and we can do some more Q&A there. Let me see here. Homesteading would be a good solution to that. Water is a human right. I would say yes. But how do you get that right into people's hands? Into their mouths, into their homes, into the areas they need. Did the Indian Geronimo exist? Yes, Geronimo was an Apache chief. And Prussia was a German entity that eventually became an empire by unifying all the German states after their success in the Franco-Prussian War in 1871. So hopefully I've answered that okay. I unpinned the links because did you see what Pravda said? So yeah. And yes, German unification came from the Kingdom of Prussia. So there you go. You got your answer. When President Xi finally conquers Mars, my pleasure, GMCC, and sets up a colony of hypersonic travel, do you believe the USA will finally submit to socialism being the superior ideology? No, because it's probably not going to happen. Yes, and always good to see you, Stryker. That's one of the reasons the U.S. wants to build a nuclear reactor on the moon. The space race is back, but it's with China. And the U.S. is trying to take note of that, I guess. So, all right, I'm going to wrap up. I'll take one more question, and then I'm going to jump over to Instagram for a little while. And if anyone wants to join me there and ask more questions, we can have some more Q&A fun there. Please follow me there at friendly_history1. It's Hars put it there. I'm going to pin those. Thanks for your comment, Pravda, but I'm going to pin those in the chat for now. So yes, you can follow me on those social media handles. Do you think that there has ever been or ever will be a dwarf revolution? This is the last thing on my bucket list. How tall are you, Harry? I mean, the USA right now is being controlled by progressive socialism. Yes, Donald Trump, the notorious progressive socialist. J.D. Vance, Senator Thune, Speaker Johnson, notorious socialists. 5'10". Okay, you're too tall for it. Never mind. I was assuming you were 5'3", so I was saying you could try at least. But too tall for that. I'm good, Damien. I'm full from lunch. At the culture, Trump is conservative. What? When is the next Q&A? The next Q&A is, I'm not telling. The next you can guess. You've seen me stand up. You've seen me walking in my videos. So the next Q&A is Saturday at 6. We're going to be doing more, and then the live stream brought to you by Vince Smith, one of our great subscribers, will be Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. We're going to go over to Instagram right now and do some more Q&A for a few minutes. I've got a long-form video about the Lancaster and Yorkist homes, the War of the Roses, coming out on YouTube. That'll come out at 8 p.m. Eastern. I have long-form videos every Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and short-form content every day. So please check that out, including my daily videos, Today in History, Born Today, and Die Today, as well as the daily news brought to you by the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel, where we decipher through all the propaganda and bring you the news just as it happened. I think you're 5'4" or 5'5". You mean like Napoleon? Yes, I'm clearly a conservative by all the times I talk trash about conservatives. Yes, clearly. But anyways, Kiara, hi, so good to see you. But yeah, he was. But you guys lied about him, so everyone thinks he was short. And actually, he was 5'6", 7. Ooh, the French and Indian War for my video. Well, I've already done a video on the French-Indian War, Eric. Maybe a different. Maybe we'll do something different. But I do like that one. Maybe I could do like why the war happened or something, a shorter, long video. Yeah. What do you think of the decanonization of saints for joining us here? I appreciate you coming across us. This is the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. And if you like history, you're in the right place. Consider liking and subscribing like a bunch of the other people here have. Yeah, we can do something different. Eric, just let me know. You can email, and oh, by the way, if you want to bring up topics with me, you want to go into more depth, you want to give me comments, suggestions, feedbacks, or ideas, Industrial Revolution? Yeah, I could do that one. Yeah, that's a good one. Email me, friendlyneighborhoodhistory@gmail.com. Yes, and your politics are different in Canada. With Carney surprising the Conservatives with a big Liberal victory, he has become one of the biggest leaders in the West. So there you go, Damien. Yeah, I don't share my exact height. But Kiara, I'm sorry, we're wrapping up right now. Damien, I'm sorry, we're wrapping up right now. But yes, we're gonna do a Sunday live stream like on Monday. We will be doing a long form video. I hope you guys check that out. Certain battles. Maybe we'll talk about those battles with the Industrial Revolution. But yeah, Eric, we'll do Industrial Revolution. Looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys all next time, 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturday for our Q&A to continue with part 2. And if you're going to follow us over to Instagram, I'm looking forward to seeing you there as well. Please like and subscribe. Take care. Have a wonderful Friday. And remember, as always, yes, thank you for joining us and love history. Bye-bye now.